Here's a game. Let's start with e4. Let's say hi. And he goes for a Sicilian. Goes for knight c6. Let's see what he does here. Okay, looks like he wants to play an accelerated dragon. I can do a Maroczy bind against that with c4. Let's see, is this a place where I can actually retreat the knight? Just try and keep the material on. I'm going to try this. I don't know if this is a move or not. And then I'm going to put this knight out here. If he wants to take the knight in order to double my pawns, he gives up the bishop pair and opens up lines for my pieces. So it's not something to worry about. He is going for d5, it looks like. After d5, I'll take, he takes, I take, he takes, I take. I still have that covered. Let's get castled. He could take the knight and then play d5, so maybe that's his plan. He goes with that kind of move. Okay, let's castle. It's interesting, he's not attacking the e-pawn. A lot of times I'll place the knight on f6 to attack the e-pawn, most commonly, I think. And he's avoided that, so I don't need to play the move f3. And he's not attacking the c-pawn either. It's funny, again, so I don't need to play the move b3 either. So let's develop this bishop and then get the rook to the c file. I think that's the way to play this. And we'll see what he wants to do with his knights. This knight on c2 is stopping his knight from coming forward. Yeah, so he finally gives up on d5 and plays d6. So rook to the c file is a normal kind of move here. See where he wants to put his queen. I could, not yet, no, I can't do that. So if I want to trade off his bishop, I guess I could play queen d2 and bishop here. Can't put the bishop on d4. Can't put the knight on d5, which is sometimes desirable. But he's already weakened himself a bit by playing e6 and then d6. So there's that d-pawn there. Now here's a point. I've defended the knight. So at this point, it's safe for me to play b3. And maybe it's useful. Let's go ahead and do that. I was going to say, it's not necessary because it's still defended by the bishop, but he could move his knight and he would suddenly have two pieces attacking that pawn. Then I would have to do something. So b3, it's a move that's often part of the plan anyway. And so there's nothing wrong with playing it here, I don't think. Maybe not. So now this is one of those positions where you can think about playing knight to d5. So knight d5, he takes my queen. I take his knight with check. He takes back, and then I take the queen. All that did was remove a lot of material. Did not help. So what else can I do here? This other knight, how do I get him back into the game? Just thinking that if I could get my bishop to b6, that would be a good square. But it doesn't look like that's happening. I need a knight here. And to get my knight there, I have to unpin here. Yeah, he left this pawn undefended. You know, if I just defend my knight, that was the simplest way to defend the knight. So knight to d4. He takes, I take, he takes, I take, and yeah, I guess that's the way to play it. I didn't want to trade all these pieces. I mean, your advantage in the Maroczy bind, and the theoretical advantage you have is a little more space. So you want to avoid peace trades, but, well, if he has to give up his good bishop here, then that's worth something. The peace trades make Black's job a little easier. He's got less space, but with fewer pieces, he can find space for his remaining pieces, find places for them. Okay, he's going to pause and think here. He could just, if he wants to keep this good bishop, he can play pawn to e5. Kick my bishop back, but that would leave him with a permanent weakness here. Yeah, so I was expecting takes, and it would keep his bishop shut in. So he probably needed to take there, and so I did get rid of his probably his strongest piece. But now I don't have a dark squared bishop, so I could go knight a5, but I don't have a bishop to put on, or knight a4, but I don't have a bishop to put on b6. It's gone. He's got weakened dark squares around the king side, so maybe this knight should come on over here to try and exploit that. Let's see, knight d1 to e3 to g4. Looks at these squares. Now he's finally taking a look at this pawn. Let's put some pressure on this guy. Yep, he steps back to defend. Okay, so the knight is defending the pawn. Queen's defending the knight. Well, but not anymore. I don't need the queen to defend the knight. So I could consider moving the queen around. Let's put the queen over here on the dark squares, maybe. You often, when you have just a light squared bishop left, you often want to put the queen on the complementary color, dark squares. I could double on the d file. Maybe that's an idea. That would also make it a little easier to defend this a pawn, which his queen is constantly staring at. Queen sitting there staring at my knight and staring at that pawn. But if I double here, I really am threatening to take there. There were times that pawn has been hanging for a while, but every time the queen would be leaving defense of the knight, so I could never actually grab it. I don't think we can check that. See if the chess engine finds a way I could have taken it. Okay, so he's going to double on the d file too. Now knight here. He takes, I take. And the bishop has a square to go to. The bishop is almost trapped. So for example, if I were to play a4 and then follow that up with knight here, then he could take with a pawn. I take back and the bishop has nowhere to go. He can take a pawn. Yeah, that doesn't look good for me, actually. So my knight is free to move around. Let's bring the bishop out of the way so I can move the knight. Knight can go to e2 and maybe to d4 or f4. I don't really want to push this pawn forward, although maybe it's an idea. after trading that knight off. Yeah, so he wants to. I mean, the thing about this pawn here is it's keeping his knight from doing anything useful. Okay, if he pushes, I'll take. If he takes, I will take. And he's got a weakness on both e6 and d6. So he pushes that pawn. So now I take here, he takes back with the knight. But he took control of this square finally. Okay, knight to g3 is what I want to play, but that runs into a fork. Okay, let's step aside with the queen. I still want to play knight to g3. Pawn takes, he takes first, okay? That's all pretty forced. So now this is interesting. If I take here, then his rook is hanging. So where can the knight go to that would attack that? I could push the pawn forward and threaten to take with the pawn. Could push my h-pawn forward maybe. Boom, boom, try and weaken his kingside. Or I could do king h1, knight to g1 to f3. Threatening, knight takes pawn. Okay, so he comes around to defend the pawn, also looking at this square, looking at this square. But he left his king side alone. So I wonder what I can do about that. Yeah, let's bring my queen over here. If his knight comes to this square, I take it. If it goes to this square and he goes after my a-pawn, I'm going to come in here with my queen. I'm going to ignore the threat to the a-pawn and take his take his e-pawn, which I think is more important. If he kicks my queen, which I didn't really think about that, that's kind of loosening here. Can't I just go here? The knight can't chase me away. The rook can chase me away. He could play rook to e7. And then where do I go? Go here. Trade, trade, and then he comes back and defends this pawn. Okay, well, let's park myself on these weakened dark squares and see what he intends to do. Now the knight can go to g3 and then to f5, taking advantage of the pin, or to h5. And if he moves his king away from the defense of the f6 square, I can play queen f6 and gang up on his d-pawn again. Okay, still got a minute 44. I do have to watch the time as it gets low. He's starting to use more time too. Well, not starting, he's been using more time as well. Been doing it for a while there. Okay, so he brought his queen around. Yeah, maybe he's starting to get a little bit worried about his king side. So I'm continuing with knight g3 with some threats here. So he brought his queen in to defend here. Now the question is, can I take there anyway? Knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, check. King goes to the side here or here. Is there any great follow-up there? His two rooks are protected. His knight is protected. This pawn is protected. Don't see it. So what I need to do probably is play knight to e4. That hits the pawn and it hits the queen, right? So that should force some kind of breakthrough. And it also threatens this fork here. Okay, so yeah, white or black. Black is finally falling apart here. It took a while to break through there. I think he defended pretty well. That queen there, you know, I always wonder about those queens on the side of the board, but they can really exert a lot of influence from the side because they have, you know, these long lines that they reach out with, looking towards my interior here and at the a pawn. But I don't see a move for black here. Brings the king back. You know, I could bring my queen in and bring the knight to g4 maybe, depending on where the king goes. And that looks pretty dangerous. Or I could just take the pawn. That also... Oh, he can't move the king anyway. He's got to move the queen. Yeah, he doesn't have any moves that threaten my queen. Yeah, so I'm going to check and take the rook. Is there something better? Well, I don't have too much time to look for it. Let's go for the obvious. So now, what's the way to break it down? Taking here, still not possible. He's got these pawns here on the light squares. How about g4 here to just open up things around the king? Allows me to get back on this diagonal here. Hits the rook. So yeah, he's going for the pawn. So let's go here. This threatens g5 there, or g6 there. Okay, so he brought the knight around to defend. What to do here? Yeah, let's keep everything defended. Maybe gang up on the on this pawn here. Let's see. So yeah, let's defend that guy. Maybe I should have gone there first. Defends f2 as well as a2. When he takes on a2, I saw his queen was coordinating with his rook. Let's see, there's no checks there. Let's take, or threaten to take here. Okay, let's, if I play the rook here, and he takes, I take, he takes, and then I take here with check. It's a queen against a rook and knight. That looks pretty good to me. Just want to simplify it to a winning kind of position. Let's go here, here. Want to make sure I can take that knight when it moves with check. If I'd gone the other way. So that's really annoying. Let's take here. And then let's take here. Here. It's going to go for some kind of perpetual probably. Don't especially want a perpetual. Can block with the queen now. And block here. So I got the queen over here. Step one. And then I get the queens off. And then I have a winning in king and pawn endgame. So not the most elegant way to end it, but it works, right? Let's stop that pawn from coming forward. And we can move these pawns forward. He's going to have to run over to stop this, and then I'll queen over here. Okay, he said, good game, and he resigned, yeah. So anyway, nice game. I'm going to upload this, and we will do a postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.